Hi, I'm Derek Mooney and this is Read Right Now. Welcome to the programme. This week I'm in Turlough in County Wicklow, an amazing underground power station from where the ESB control all of the hydroelectric stations across Ireland. This is an incredible place, built in the 1960s. And Dean has gone to an ESB power station too, in County Clare, to talk to us about memory strategies.
Today we're at Ardnacrusha, an amazing hydroelectric station that first opened in 1929. We'll be talking about how to make the most of your memory and how improving your memory helps you learn.
Later in the programme we're going to be meeting this week's learner, Sandra Mooney, and she'll be telling us how she's managed to battle against all of the odds to go back to learning and achieve qualifications she really didn't think was possible. We'll be seeing how important a role memory plays in learning, but we'll also have our usual selection of learning points to give practical advice on using prefixes to form new words, writing notes and messages, and increasing your vocabulary by learning the opposites of common words. Right, time to do a bit of exploration. There are only 3 years between Dubliner Sandra Mooney and her niece Angie. Although they came from the same family background, their experience of education was very different. The reason? Sandra has spina bifida and is a wheelchair user.
Sandra was never different to us because we grew up with her. She was never different, like, you know, her legs didn't work, that was about it.
I started school when I was about 5.5. I went to segregated school out in Clontarf. I didn't go to mainstream school because they weren't used to people with disabilities. I was fine for about 2 years, but then I started going in our hospital and that, and I started falling behind then.
Our relationship was different. We were friends more so than, like, we went to school separately, but we weren't like aunt and niece. We were like pals. We hung out together. She became part of my group of pals, and I became part of her group of pals. Yeah, I knew her writing wasn't very good, and she never. I mean, she'd get letters and she'd give them to you. Read that, you know, or will you write that letter for me, or, you know, I have to write a letter, just will you do it for me? And, you know, it was just another thing that just was one of them things. It was not something that you noticed. It was just part of everyday life, really, you know.
15 and teach them.
15 and teach, yeah?
Yeah, you're right.
No problem.
I was advised not to try to go to secondary because I didn't think I'd be able to keep up with the class. I just went into a day centre then, 2 days a week. And all we done there was like bits of crafts, sewing, and maybe knitting. It was okay, it just kept you occupied, but it wasn't going to do anything for my future. Like, it was just filling in the day. Like, although people in wheelchairs hadn't really gone into mainstream, they were starting to learn, like, and go to college and all that. And I was wondering what was going to happen. Was I going to be just still there, like, as I was 65? When I heard that I was going to be doing literacy classes, it was brilliant because I knew there'd be more opportunities if I could succeed in it.
Angie talks about how Sandra used to ask her to read and write things for her when they were in school. One of the most common difficulties people have with reading and writing is spelling, and a good way to improve your spelling is by breaking up words. A lot of longer words begin with the same letters. In many of these cases, these groups of letters are called prefixes. Let's look at some examples to find out what a prefix is. We can see that the words reread, rewrite, redo all begin with the prefix re. The words unhappy, unimportant and unfit begin with the prefix un. And we can also see the prefix dis at the start of the words disagree, dislike and disloyal. These groups of letters, re, un and dis, are called prefixes. A prefix is a group of letters put before another word to change the original word's meaning. Some prefixes are very common and you'll see them a lot. Another common prefix is miss, which means to do something incorrectly. Miss appears in front of words like misread and mishear, which both mean to read and to hear incorrectly. One important point to note about prefixes is that just because a word begins with a certain group of letters, that doesn't always mean that it is a prefix. For example, the group of letters UN at the beginning of the words understand and uniform is not a prefix. Your knowledge of prefixes can help you to understand the meaning of and to spell longer words. As you get used to using them, you'll begin to see just how common prefixes are in English.
Recognising prefixes then can be very useful, especially if you understand the word that comes after the prefix. And once you know the more common prefixes, then you'll soon be able to recognise and use lots of new words. It's that simple. Okay, let's find out why Ian is in County Clare.
Thanks, Derek. This week we're looking at memory strategies. And I want to show you how we move information from one part of the brain to another, much like this power station at Ardnacrusha, which sends electricity right round the country. Let's look at some information stored in your brain. Can you remember your telephone number? How about the names of your teachers at school? Now, if you have a bank account, do you know the PIN number? Okay, you might remember these well enough because you've recalled them so often. But what if someone asked you to name all the towns between Ardnacrusha and Dublin? That would be extremely difficult unless you made that journey every day. Is this the kind of information you need to remember? I don't know all the towns between Ardnacrusha and Dublin, but I can look them up on a map. Like any electrical circuit, you shouldn't overload your brain with all this kind of information. Maps, timetables and phone books are there to make life easier. The way in which we decide to remember some things and not others is called prioritising. The kinds of facts that it's good to store in long-term memory are, for example, the spelling of common words, your home telephone number, your car registration number, or your favourite joke. Sometimes we decide not to put information in our long-term memory. Maybe you have a bus timetable in your wallet because you don't want to have to learn a lot of bus times. If you can find the information you need quite quickly, you tend to put it in your short-term memory, then forget it. Like this centre that controls the flow of water from the upper to the lower Shannon, so your brain controls which information to move from immediate to long-term memory.
When Sandra made the decision to go back to learning, she decided to study in Enable Ireland in Sandymount, Dublin.
My experience over the years, the majority of individuals, certainly that I've worked with, people with disabilities have had difficulties around literacy, numeracy, fundamental areas like that. If you take an individual with a disability, one of the prime things is the site that they go to study in has got to be accessible. That's generally not the case. Okay, I'll just show you where to go again. Stop, click.
I originally tried to go to literacy classes in my area. I went a few times, but they were upstairs, and I had a relation of mine carrying me up 2 flights of stairs, but it just wasn't feasible.
You happy enough for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the printer.
Yeah, lovely stuff. We did some research in the local area, looking at the local VECs, and as we were based over in Sandymount at the time, it made sense to contact the literacy coordinator over there. The coordinator was quite flexible in providing a tutor on a one-to-one basis to actually come to whatever location Sandra wished.
It was easier when Enable Ireland arranged, because they knew the teachers and they knew they were able to explain to them what we actually needed.
Okay, basically...
In the beginning I thought it was a bit slow because I wasn't able to find my particular needs, because everything she was giving me I was able to do, so we were kind of saying, well, why are you here? But eventually, just couldn't put, say letters. I wanted to do letters and things like that, business letters, and we started doing a few of them, so I'm going to that now.
Right, you haven't seen this has only come about really within this last month or two. It's just a very tidy way of making sure your things get done and your goals get achieved.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Unlike other approaches, we're using what they call a capacity searching approach. It's all based on strengths. And the individual is encouraged to have aspirations, have dreams, you know, set their goals as high as they want, you know, and it all comes down to planning after that once the goals are set.
It wasn't until questions were kind of fired at you that you realised, well, that I do a lot of these things and I can do more. But it wasn't until the personal centre planning came about that I realised that I was capable of doing other things.
Let's just recap, right? You've got your FETAC communication foundation level. You've done quite a few introductory courses in computers.
The best thing that I've done since I've done the literacy class is the communications FETAC course. It wasn't the easiest thing. It was a lot of writing and reading that had to be done. And I did find it a bit difficult to do in the beginning. So I passed that grant.
When Sandra started studying with her tutor in Enable Ireland, she found that it was possible to adapt her studies to include business letters. Now, business letters can be tricky, but a good way of starting is by writing notes and messages. You write notes to give information to someone, such as telling someone their dinner is in the oven, that you've gone somewhere, or that the dog needs to be fed. Taking and writing a message involves passing on information from somebody else. For example, say you wanted to tell someone that they'd received a phone call while they were out. Writing notes and messages is different to writing letters because there's no need to use long sentences. It is important, however, that you get your message down clearly. When you're writing notes, there's usually no single structure or format to use. Remember to put down who the note's for, the time the note was written, and who the note is from. When writing notes or taking phone messages at work, however, you may need to write in a bit more detail. The things to remember are the date, the time, who the note is for, what the message is about, and who the message was taken by, in case some extra information is needed. Remember, when you're writing notes and messages, think about who'll be reading it. What will they need to know, and how can you make it clear and keep it short? If you keep these questions in your head, you should have no problems.